Well, I don't know about you, Tamsen, but I feel like you get PMS, right? Then you get perimenopause, and then you get menopause. PMS,
and then you're irrelevant.
And then you're irrelevant
in the healthcare system.
Absolutely.
And that's not okay.
Well, PMS I equate to problem is a male species.
Yeah.
And then, but everything has men in it.
Yeah, I know.
Perimenopause, menopause. So I guess men are the problem, right?
I guess so.
Sorry, men. The following podcast is a Healthy Dog production. Welcome to the Healthy Dog Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nigma Talib. I'm a leading naturopathic doctor now for over 20 years, and I've consulted thousands of patients with chronic illnesses. I've had clinics all over the world, and I have a #1 bestseller, Younger Skin Starts in the Gut. Listen, I know there's a lot of health information out there in the health and wellness world, and it can be a bit overwhelming. So I'm here to set the record straight and give you my expertise along with my expert guests here in studio in sunny Los Angeles.
I only take drugs with other people who take them on a regular basis because I don't have time for that.
A lot of chronic diseases stem from mitochondrial dysfunction.
Yes. And you know what I love talking about, right? Poop.
Yes. You can ask me about my poop?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about poop.
Okay, please.
This podcast is your go-to for achieving optimal wellness from the best of beauty and longevity and everything in between, because after all, wellness comes from the inside out. Welcome to the Healthy Dog Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nigma Talib. I have an incredible guest today, and we're going to talk about something that all women need to hear, and it's on the topic of menopause. She is an Emmy Award-winning journalist, and she's written an incredible book that is coming out, How to Menopause, as well as she's done an incredible documentary called The M Factor. Today with us is Tamsen Fadal. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm so appreciative.
And I see you have...
I have a new friend.
Yeah. He loves you right away. He's like, he wants
I'm so
you
relaxed here. I'm so comfortable.
Your body's secreting lots of oxytocin, right?
I know.
I've been following you on Instagram, and you are really doing some incredible things for women. You're really vulnerable. You share things that a lot of people think about, but they don't say it. And it really resonated with me. And I saw you on Instagram, and I'm like, I need to interview her. And you were so gracious, and you responded right away. So thank you so much for having my listeners listen to you.
Oh, thank you so much.
I read also something that you'd said. I want to start off with what you said on one of your Instagrams. You were like, you got divorced when you were in perimenopause, and then you got married when you were in menopause.
Yes.
So let's go.
I timed it out perfectly.
Seriously, nobody could have timed that better. So I want to learn about your journey, because you've been a journalist for 30 years.
Yeah.
And an award-winning journalist, an Emmy Award-winning. And what made you pivot and go, I'm going to talk about menopause all of a sudden?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know. It's what happened to me, really, is what it was. And if I'd thought 5 years ago, you're going to be talking about menopause and sharing your sex life, I would have said no, I don't think so. I'm never going to show the world any flaws. But it was something that happened to me. It happened in the studio. I landed on the floor of the bathroom during a live broadcast, and didn't know what was going on with me, and thought it was such a unique story. And then come to realize that so many women were very confused with a lot of their symptoms of perimenopause. And I went doctor to doctor to get some answers. Didn't know what was going on. And I finally got a message in my patient portal that said, "In menopause, any questions?" And that set me on this journey of, yes, I have a lot of questions. I can't even believe I'm too young for menopause. That was 49 at the time. So obviously the average age, perfectly on time. And I think that the more questions I asked, the more people I realized that were very confused by what was happening, the more I realized that I wanted to dive in, ask questions, and bridge that gap between the experts and in the audience.
How was your perimenopause journey? Because I would say my perimenopause journey was worse.
Yeah.
Yes. And you don't know what's going on. And it's about 10 years prior to you actually hitting menopause. Mm-hmm. And once you hit menopause, at least in the UK, they talk about it a bit more. They say you're having the change of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At least something's going on. I'll tell you this. I didn't know I was in perimenopause. I didn't know at all. I didn't know all the symptoms of not being able to fall asleep anymore so easily, gaining weight in places I hadn't gained weight forever, my arms feeling different than they'd ever felt before. I wouldn't have sat in this white chair. I would have been like sitting on my leg and just be worried that I didn't know. On white, I would be petrified that, what if I bled through, because I'd have my period like very, very heavy all different times randomly. So I just think it was this time of like, well, who am I? I know I asked that a lot, and I didn't know what was going on. I just didn't feel like, who I knew I was.
And that perimenopause journey for women listening, this is not just about menopause. This is, graduating into the menopause and starting off with that, the symptoms of heavy bleeding. I mean, it's like a murder scene for some women. Yeah. It's like,
And scary.
And scary. And, they have to wear 10 pairs of pants or underwear or, definitely can't like sit on a couch or anything like that.
Yeah, I would have a, during the newscast, I'd stuff a tampon down in between my bra and I'd run to the bathroom real fast, change it, and run back between commercial breaks because I was so, I never knew what was going to happen. And that's uncomfortable and unnerving, and would just, I was constantly like watching for that, making sure I was okay, not knowing what was wrong. Never one time did anybody tell me that. They told me it was stress. I was put on Lexapro. I was anxious, and I went, oh my gosh, I look back, all those things were perimenopause.
It's such an interesting journey because women of that age bracket are ignored because they're definitely told they're not in menopause, but then what are they in? Yeah. And what is perimenopause? So I don't know if you know this, I'm writing my second book on the whole journey, the hormone journey.
Wonderful.
And going through, different naturopathic solutions and alternatives to what the mainstream HRT. Not that there's anything wrong with HRT,
but we need options.
You need to be doing adjunct therapy with HRT because, as we know, estrogen receptors, the receptor might be not ready to accept the estrogen, and essentially things like digestion, bloating, gas, constipation, all relate to, potential health issues.
No question.
That could be related to hormone decline. True wellness lives in the smallest details: the air you breathe, the water you wash with, and the surfaces you touch. That's why Koala Eco, with their beautiful botanical ranges for home, laundry, body, and even pets, is the only brand I trust. Elegant living without compromise. Visit koalaeco.com, that's KOALAECO.com, and use my code HealthyDoc15 for 15% off your first order. So now you're on this journey. You decide, I'm going to discuss menopause. I'm going to as a reporter and a journalist, I'm going to shout from the rooftops about what menopause is. Right. You've done this incredible documentary and it just launched in October. It's called The M Factor. I love the name. That's just so clever. What made you do this documentary and how did you get involved in that?
Yeah, I just knew there were a lot of questions that I had. I knew there were a lot of questions women had. And I think I started doing some different interviews on Instagram. That's kind of where I started everything. And I realized every time I talked to an expert or a doctor or a sleep expert or a fitness person, I was like, oh my gosh, this information is so important. I've got to share this. And then I was introduced to a woman named Joanne Lamarca Matheson, and she had come from the Today Show, and she had left her job. She'd been having, menopause symptoms, brain fog, all sorts of things. And we got to talking. We were on the phone for an hour and a half one day, and I said, we need to share this information with the masses. There's going to be 1 billion women in menopause at some point. So we set out, this was toward the end of the pandemic. We went into Times Square and I was like, let's just see if we can get a temperature on what people think about. I mean, it was so innocent how we started this. And so we were with our iPhones freezing with masks on in the middle of Times Square. People were like, what do you want? And so I'm like, menopause. Were you in menopause? But so fast forward, we met some documentarians on the West Coast, and we all four came together and said, we've got to really do this in a big way and find some of the leading experts around the country and do as much as we can. And I always say, we didn't have all the answers, but we had a lot of questions. And so that's what the documentary was for, so we could listen to the information and ask questions from there, because everybody's story is going to be different. We're not going to have everybody's story in that, but at least we can start having some of the basis of how we got here and where we need to be and what women need to know about at this stage.
What was the most surprising thing to you when you were interviewing all those people?
Well, I think a few things. I think what continues to surprise me, even after researching it and understanding it, is how we have such little information about where we are and what doctors don't know and have not learned in school. I think that's the first big thing. I think the second thing is understanding that the estrogen receptors are all over our body and dental health is a part of it. Like there's nothing that is untouched by that. And I think that's a big deal for women to understand so they don't feel like there's something wrong with them. Because that's where we have to get. We have to make sure it's not that we're here to solve everyone's symptoms. It's that we're here to let you know that you're not alone and that there are solutions out there and there are experts that we want to bridge them with. And I think that's the critical part of it all.
Absolutely. And we are, like you said, we are outliving the lifespan of our ovaries.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And just because we're not, ovulating and we're not able to, have children doesn't mean we're useless,
irrelevant, invisible, washed up.
But that's what a lot of women feel.
I know.
And which doesn't make sense because you look at a lot of women, they're running for office in their 50s. They're, superstars, singers, having concerts all over the world, touring, and women in their 50s, they're killing it. And
killing it.
So it's like, what are they doing that's different than other women in their 50s?
I think they're beginning to understand who they are and coming into their power and owning it. And I think it has to start though with feeling better. I do think that that's what we did with the book is make sure that it starts in the doctor's office, but then provides women solutions so they understand what's going on and moves into mindset. And it's a great question because I use a lot of those examples so women know that there is not just hope, but there are real concrete examples of women doing incredible things. And I think some of the ways that they get there is the fact that they realize that we have a finite amount of time left, right? We just do. We want to make the most of it. And that age does not have to be a barrier. And we see women doing things in their 80s and 90s. Like I'm blown away sometimes by some of the things I see. And it's because they're taking care of their life in a 360 manner. It's not just hormones. It's not just exercise. It's not just nutrition. It's all of those things together. And I think it's also taking a little bit of time to understand that you have to come first right now.
Absolutely. I mean, we look at whales and elephants. They're one of the few species in the animal kingdom that live longer than their fertility, and in addition to humans. I mean, so it's an interesting journey of why these, the elder of the elephants, how they're the wise and the killer whales and how they lead their, the young to the salmon, for food. So there's just all this wisdom in this journey, living past your ovarian lifespan.
Yeah, there really is. And I think we have a lot to learn from these women and from us. And then I think we have a lot to work to do in terms of rewriting that narrative, because I don't see, even in the media, even in TV shows and movies, we're just starting to scratch the surface, on exactly what it is that we need to pay attention to, because these women are wiser. They've got a lot of power. They've got a lot to offer and a lot to teach that generation. There's some cultures that see that and believe that, but ours has not been one of them for a very long time, sadly.
I'm just curious from your perspective, because you're a journalist and you're really good about, interviewing and getting things out of people. What are your thoughts around why do you think that is? I mean, I have some ideas. Why do you think that this has been concealed about women?
Menopause been concealed? Look, I think that menopause is so tied up in age and irrelevance and a lot of shame that comes along with it. I think that, centuries ago, it was hysteria is what it really was considered. I think that it's been hidden for a long time because I think that women were taught to kind of suck it up and not show any kind of weakness. And if we did, we weren't going to be able to do what men do. But the truth is, men go through their own things. We just don't talk about them very much. And so I think that's part of the reason. I think it's also that we don't have a lot of answers. And so we feel very confused by it and we don't have anyone to talk to. I mean, think about it. You don't want to talk to your girlfriends about it necessarily because you're not sure exactly what's going on. So you go to a doctor to see what's going on, and your doctor says that you're stressed out and you should try to relax a little bit, or this is the stage in life that everyone goes through. And you go back home, and who do you want to share that with? Who do you want to share that you're the problem? And so I think that that's my thoughts on it. What are yours? Because yours will come much more from a medical point.
I agree with you. I think that's and I think it's the patriarchy. It's
Sure.
that whole, men don't, of course men go through, sort of midlife crisis and also hormonal decline. We go through every single hormonal decline. A lot of women don't even know they have testosterone.
I know. I was shocked by that too, actually.
I was
shocked by that too.
That is something very shocking I see in the general public.
Yeah.
And testosterone is needed for, as you know, bone, health, mental clarity, muscle formation. And muscle formation and, keeping your muscle is what is going to determine how healthy you actually are.
Yeah.
And that lack of testosterone, the women don't even know they have. And then we also have lack of progesterone and lack of estrogen. And then couple that with adrenal hormone fatigue.
Yeah.
So it's like a walking disaster. And I run lab tests on every patient. So I've been running lab tests for 20 years.
Wow.
And worked very closely with Genova Diagnostics when I first started practicing. So I really understand how to functionally assess for hormonal imbalance. And the levels are frightening in women in as early as now their 30s. I'm seeing going into perimenopause.
Yeah, I believe that. And so that's why I think that there's no too young of an age to have this conversation. And that's why I think this transition should be all the way across. It shouldn't be segmented out like it is right now.
It is.
It's segmented out like, reproductive years. Okay. Now all the rest of that we've never paid attention to.
I've built my entire clinical philosophy and even wrote a book called Younger Skin Starts in the Gut around one simple truth. If your gut isn't optimal, nothing else works. Genova Diagnostics GI Effects test is the gold standard in functional stool testing, mapping your microbiome, digestion, inflammation, and nutrient absorption with clinical precision. It's a crappy job, but someone has to do it, and no one does it better than Genova. Visit genovaconnect.com and use my code HEALTHYDOC15 for 15% off your first stool test. Well, I don't know about you, Tamsen, but I feel like you get PMS, right? Then you get perimenopause, and then you get menopause. PMS,
and then you're irrelevant.
And then you're irrelevant
in the healthcare system.
Absolutely.
And that's not okay.
Well, PMS I equate to problem is a male species.
Yeah.
And then, but everything has men in it.
Yeah, I know.
Perimenopause, menopause. So I guess men are the problem, right?
I guess so.
Sorry, men. But
they're the through line.
It's I also want to change that name. I wish we could change that name. I don't like that name, menopause.
I know. We got it, and it's been stuck, and it has such a not
stigma.
Great connotation. I'm hoping it changes as we're just really started talking about it. So imagine in 5 years what it could represent, and so that's what I'm hopeful for.
That is what I'm hoping my next book is going to do, is sort of create like a movement for women that are going through what the current term is menopause. And also like the fact of the definition of menopause. I wanted to hear your thoughts on this, because as a doctor, as a naturopathic doctor running lab tests and following women, and I'm not sure that I agree with the definition, because it is all over the place. For the first time you hit menopause and you have 1 year of no menstrual periods, there is going to be some spotting in between. Obviously,
which scares everybody.
And sends them right to their gynecologist, freaking out. And it's very common. And so we have to also alter the definition and give women parameters around safety. Okay, well, when do you really need to worry? And what tests do you need to do? Almost giving them like a roadmap, just like you've given a map to go somewhere back in the day before we had GPS, where we had to pull up the good old map. We need that for menopause.
I'm surprised we don't have that like as a baseline in there. I mean, we have the baselines for mammograms. We have a baseline for a lot of different things in our lives, and we don't have it for that. And I would love to see that. And I think, obviously that's something that would have to change on a much larger scale and take somebody a lot smarter than me. But if I knew that at 35 or at 37 or at 38, I should start looking for some changes. Here's your 10 things you should look for. That would have made it a really different conversation for me. It would have made me feel different. It would have made me know exactly what doctor to go to. I mean, when I landed on the floor in the studio, I went to my GP first. I went to general practitioner, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. And then stress was the answer there. Then I talked to my therapist. I didn't think about going to my OBGYN immediately, because I had no idea that's what it was wrapped up in.
Did he put you on an antidepressant right
I was on Lexapro. I was on Lexapro, 10 milligrams of Lexapro. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I still had all the symptoms. I mean, I'm sure I was a little more relaxed, but I had all the symptoms of everything else.
You were relaxed.
It didn't stop anything else.
So when you did the documentary, what else were you interviewed a bunch of doctors and scientists. Can you talk a bit more about those people that you interviewed? Because they were fascinating.
Oh, yeah. Dr. Wen, incredible researcher and somebody who's really focused on making sure that we're teaching this in medical school. And that's really what she does, is make sure that the students understand this and learn, what other doctors have not. Dr. Lisa Mosconi, neuroscientist, who's just really, really
love
brilliant.
her.
Yeah, she's wonderful. And she really, I think, help me understand that was a really important part of this, that mindset and understanding your brain and understanding what's factually going on there and understanding we still have a lot more questions. But she just puts it in such a great way and then says, we come back up on the other side where we can kind of see that happiness. We see older women like, I don't have anything. I don't have a care in the world. And you go, how did that happen from being so unhappy for quite a long time?
Right.
So I think that she presents it in such a beautiful way. And so I'm always excited when she says, like, I've got new research. And I'm like, what is it now? Because there's so much that we don't know. Dr. Sharon Malone, brilliant again. She is just has such a way with putting very technical terms and difficult information into she makes it very, very clear, and also explains to women contraindications. So whether or not they can or can't do hormone therapy, and if they can't, what the other options might be. And so I think it's important. Dr. Mary Claire Haver, Dr. Kelly Casperson, who is, talking about testosterone all the time. And I'm working with her on a couple of different initiatives with an organization to try to get the black box label removed from estrogen products. So there's a lot of really, I felt very lucky that everybody said yes. And I could have interviewed 50 more people, because I think there's a lot we still have to talk about.
Well, you did a great job with that
Thank
documentary, and every single woman listening, watching this podcast, go and watch the documentary. It was incredible.
Thank you so much.
Coming back, though, I want to discuss the reason why we're in this predicament. Part of the reason, I think, is the 2002 study.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that scared a lot of women.
Yeah.
Did you interview anyone or talk to anyone about that study? And the research showed that women taking HRT plummeted. Mm-hmm. Can we talk about that a bit?
Yeah, it went to, I think it was like 40 to 4%, and I think it's even lower right now of the women taking it. Dr. Mary Jane Mingan and Dr. Malone were both practicing, right in the height of all of it, and they said that after that study came out and those headlines came across the news from the WHI study, that their phones were ringing off the hook, and women were like, what is going on? I'm flushing my hormones down the toilet, and that's really what happened. I mean, women were petrified. The one thing, I was in a room with Dr. Avram Blooming, and he was on stage speaking, and he said to the audience, like, how many of you are worried about heart disease? And a couple of people raised their hand. How many of you are worried about, I don't remember the other things, bone health? Mm-hmm. A couple of people, maybe one or two raised their hand. How many of you are worried about breast cancer? In the entire room, every hand went up in the room, because that is our fear as women. I lost my mother and my stepmother to breast cancer. Big fear of mine. It was always the cloud that hung over me. Mm-hmm. But after that study, it just kind of doubled down on the fact that that's what women are afraid of. And so women equated estrogen, hormone therapy, breast cancer, and then that was it. That's all you had to say. And so I think we've had to do a lot to kind of dig ourselves out of what that is. And we still have a lot of work to do to explain what else? What other options do we have? What else do we need to know about this? What do we do with testosterone? And so there's a lot of questions that are really, as much as we know, we have so many more questions to ask and answer.
Absolutely. And, the study was done on postmenopausal women too. Yeah. So it didn't even do the
smokers.
Yeah. And so of course that is going to increase your risk. And estrogen also is something that shouldn't be just thrown out like candy.
No,
it doesn't work on everyone very well. Yeah. You can put a woman on a high. I remember seeing this one patient, and she was put on a bolus of large amounts of estrogen, and thankfully her gynae put her on progesterone as well, knowing that would help reduce the risks for cancer. But after 6 months, it wasn't working for her anymore. Right. She felt like hallelujah. She saw the light. Yeah. She was so feeling, you see all my patients that get on these hormones that their doctors are just now throwing them on. but not looking at the breakdown of those metabolites and looking at things like MTHFR, methylation defects, which can make a huge difference on how you metabolize hormones, how you metabolize B12 folate. So there's a big picture to this hormone cascade. But I think starting the conversation the way you have with the M Factor and also your book, How to Menopause, because I think that what you put in your book, like what I've read, I haven't received the hard copy yet, but it's so beautiful.
I haven't either. I can't wait.
I'm like, I want to take this and read it. Oh, it's just a cover. Oh, I love it.
You'll get one.
We're in Hollywood. We do those kind of things.
It's perfect.
I can't wait. It's coming out in March, and it's on my to-do list to read.
Thank you.
It's something. I know the book's not out yet. Can you give us a sneak peek?
Yes,
as
of
to
course.
what's in the book?
Of course. I wanted to make sure it came out of the doctor's office, so it wasn't just there. So we do start in the doctor's office. There's 42 experts in it. A lot of the experts that are in the film, a lot of experts that are not in the film, because we could only fit a certain amount there. And what I wanted to do was break down like the kind of the gifts, the fears, and the facts of menopause. So we start there, and then we move into symptoms. So you say, okay, I've got 10 of those. Now I kind of know where I'm headed. And I wanted it to be the roadmap that you're talking about, to say, what do I do next? So now I'm in the roadmap. Now I need and I struggled with this part. I struggled with what comes first. Do we need sleep more? Do we need our brains taken care of more? Do we need eat more? Sleep really felt like the big one for me. So I did the hormonal, non-hormonal options, then moved into sleep, because I felt like if you don't sleep, all bets are off on everything else. You can't even remember to go to the doctor, right? And so, so that was important to move into that area and then talk about sleep and sex and relationships then, because I think that all of those kind of get wrapped up in this area. And then I moved into more of the lifestyle changes. I wanted people to end though on a note where they felt really inspired and not like, oh gosh, I've got to do all this and then maybe I'll feel better. I wanted them to have some good examples of what happens, in all of this, and that there's hope and that there's reassurance, and that it doesn't end with just taking a bunch of pills. You have to keep up on this journey. As you say, you've got to know what these levels are. You've got to know what things are doing to you. You've got to know what else you can do to feel better and fill in a lot of the gaps that we have right now.
I know. And I explained it to my patients. I said, well, if you're driving a 55-year-old Porsche through the Sahara Desert and through the mud and sludging it around, how do you think that Porsche is going to, hold up, right? You've got to you'd fill the car up with gas, wouldn't you?
Of course.
If you had to drive it along. And I think we forget to do that as women, we forget to nurture ourselves because we're too busy nurturing everybody else, our kids. And now we're at an age where our parents are getting older.
Yeah, of course.
And, we're now taking care of our parents. We're working, you've written a new book. I mean, it's a lot.
It does. I said I used to live by, every day was a to-do list for me. I didn't live my life. I was just lived a to-do list. And so I'm trying to learn how to do the to-do list, make sure most of it gets accomplished, but also, put myself on it as well. And I never did that before. I was always like, I'll sleep later, I'll work out later, I'll de-stress later. And later never came, and later is now.
I want to share something that could literally slow down how you age, inside and out. Let's talk about hyperbaric oxygen therapy, or HBOT. You've probably heard of it being used for athletes or wound healing, but what you may not know is the latest research is showing powerful benefits for cellular regeneration, brain health, and even reversing some biological markers of aging. Hyperbaric chamber works where you breathe in oxygen at higher than normal pressure. This process stimulates your tissues with oxygen and beyond what your body can normally get in. That extra oxygen jumpstarts your cells, helps natural repair processes, reduces inflammation, and boosts collagen production. It even stimulates the growth of new blood vessels. Studies have shown improvements in telomere length, which are kind of like protective caps on your DNA that shorten as you age. Longer telomeres, that's linked to healthier aging. If you're feeling the effects of aging, maybe it's slower recovery, brain fog, or skin that's lost its luster and glow, hyperbaric oxygen might be a powerful tool to help you feel sharper, stronger, and more vibrant. Go to oxyhealth.com, that's OXYHEALTH.com, and type in discount code HEALTHYDOC10 for your first order. I want to know what your tips are. I want to know your personal journey in terms of what you did to get out. You were on the bathroom floor. You were, you didn't know what was wrong with you. And then you took control. You started interviewing doctors and you wanted to find out what was going on. What was your journey? If you can take us through that and kind of the things that worked, the things that didn't work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. Well, so because of my fear of breast cancer, and I'd had it for a long time, when I was given hormone therapy the first 2 times, I was like, oh, I'm not doing that. I don't know. I'm scared. My mom, so that was a learning curve for me. It was a big learning curve. And I finally found it. I had to fire my doctor. I had to fire my doctor.
What
in
happened?
Like 15 years. Well, that was the doctor that said, in menopause, any questions? And that was it. And I thought, what? And so I was so angry by that response. And at that point, I didn't have this community around going like, if your doctor's not listening, I didn't have that. I just had this weird kind of, seemingly flippant answer. And so I went looking for other doctors. And it was around the same time I started interviewing people. And I was just doing it like on Facebook or wherever, and Instagram. And I think at this point I was in a place where I felt like frustrated and confused and not knowing what was next. And then once I found the doctor that, really explained to me hormones and let me understand that I could do hormones, even though my mother had breast cancer, I finally wound up doing that and feeling better, but I really had to make big lifestyle changes. Like I wasn't doing any of the right things. I was up till 3:00 in the morning watching Netflix. I was, because I couldn't sleep. I was stressed out because I was gaining weight. I was at work. It was very, very difficult. I had a ridiculous brain fog at work where I had lost a lot of confidence. So I had made some real lifestyle changes to get to the next place. I had to focus on that. And that was hard for me to focus on myself. I felt almost guilty.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you take any supplements?
Yep, I did and do. Magnesium's a huge one for me. Fiber is a huge one. I really wound up needing it. I thought, I don't need fiber. That's for old people. And I was like, oh, I need fiber. And so, and then I do a lot of greens in the morning. So I do this shake I call the Hot Girl Menopause Smoothie, just because I dump a bunch
that down? Yes.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it changes all the time, but the one that I have is got heavy plant-based protein is where I start. Greens, almond milk, just to with just almonds and water. I do a little bit of vitamin D drops in it just because it's easier than, I'm not a big pill person. Like I'd rather have powders and stuff. So that's what I do for the most part. I do chia seeds, maca powder, and blueberries and ice. And that's what I do.
I did see your Hot Girls Menopause smoothie.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
So,
is that in the book?
Yes, it is. It is. Yeah,
oh my
I have a bunch of recipes in there too.
Oh,
for
I
fun.
love that. I love that. It's amazing.
I feel like that helped me kind of get out of the rut of how do I get enough protein? How do I get enough of this? Because I also am not the person that's going to sit there all day long and cook 5 meals a day to figure out how to get I know myself well enough. Sleep was another big one I focused on. And so I do try to go to bed around the same time and get up at the same time. Never did that before. Got outside first thing in the morning. And then I reworked my workout a bit when, Gen X was eat as few calories as possible, eat as little fat as possible, and get on the Stairmaster and just sweat around it in a big pile of sweat. That's all I did. I was like, burn off the calories. And now I've changed that. Like I'm in the weight room more than I am anywhere else. I do yoga and Pilates, and those are my kind of more for my brain health, I think, or just to chill out a little bit. And I walk a ton. So I've changed up a lot of things if I look back to where I was 5 years ago.
And it's a really interesting journey when we're in our 50s. We care less about things.
Yeah.
We don't sweat the small stuff anymore.
Very different.
Because we've been through so much,
Yeah.
And so it's a very empowering time. And I think this is a very empowering time for women in general.
I do too. And I don't think I've ever had such a community of women that I could say, wow, like I really can. I came here, met you in person the first time and feel very connected already and feel like I'm probably going to be texting you in, a week or say something. So I don't think I've ever felt like that before. I don't know about you, but I think that community aspect is really energizing to me. And I really understand how important community is. And my dad turns 85 this year. And I was like, I don't know if his community is big enough. So now my mission for next year is to help my dad with his community, which I'm sure he doesn't want any help. But I was like, I have to help him now. He needs community. But I think it's really important.
What a wonderful daughter. That's such a wonderful thing.
We'll see how much he appreciates that.
Well, you know what? I think you've done such an amazing job. I mean, you can see it on your Instagram, the way people are interacting with you.
Thank you.
You've changed a lot of people's lives. I mean, your documentary alone has over 1 million views. I mean, did you ever in a million years think this would happen?
No, we thought we were putting it up on YouTube. We didn't know what we were, really did not know. And so every once in a while when I'm making a big plan, I'm like, this is the plan. I go, hey, you did something with no plan and it worked out, and I couldn't have imagined. But I have to say this, it was the women that made this successful. And it's been unbelievable. We launched it October 17th on PBS, and women reached out and said like, hey, can I take it and show it in my community? And we said, yes. And so that's what we did. And we wound up having to hire a whole team of people to help us get this out fast enough to these women. And so it's been seen in over 340 cities and 34 countries now. Yeah, we had a viewing, we've had viewings like Singapore and New Zealand, but the women gather the communities, put panels of doctors together, put experts together. They get gift bags, they get venues, they get theater. It's unbelievable because they want conversation. And that's what this has done. And that's what I think it's been more important than anything else.
And you had the strength and ability to do something like this. It's a game changer, and we can't thank you enough. All the women watching this should watch and read your book.
Thanks.
And before we head off, though,
tell me.
I wanted to ask you a question. I have a couple of questions to ask you. Number one, what is your love language?
My love language. Oh. My husband's
I know your husband's in the audience. My husband's
be like jewelry. No, it's not. That's not what it is, though. I think it is food. Is that okay?
Okay, so it's
meal, sitting down, time together.
Service, time, quality time.
Yeah, time. Okay. A meal. Like I like that. I like sitting around and having a meal
quality
and talking.
time.
Yeah,
so
I love it. I did
it
last night, so it's on the top of my mind.
Well, do you like to be cuddled and touched?
Oh, I like to be cuddled. But when I'm ready to go to sleep, I don't want to be touched anymore.
Maybe that's
at all. I don't want to be touched. I don't want to, nothing.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. You're like your individual.
This is my side.
That's my side.
100%.
I'm with you. What about acts of service? Somebody doing something for you?
Oh yeah, I'm more. I always feel better doing something for somebody else versus having it done for me. I always feel like, oh, I don't know.
You seem like that type.
Yeah,
that's
so I do.
Giving.
But yes, I do. I mean, acts of service are wonderful. I think that's changed a lot for me over the years too. Like those things are really touching. They touch me in a different way than they ever used to. I pay more attention to them.
I think your love language changes as you're going into the hormone decline.
Oh, totally.
And then back into the hormone
what is yours?
Replenishment. Well, mine is acts of service and quality time.
Yeah,
for sure.
Quality time. I'm like food.
It's amazing the amount of people I ask, and gifts is one of the big things for them.
Yeah. Oh, really?
And it's not for me so much.
I don't think it is for me. But 10 years ago it was probably. 10 years ago I would have been like a big diamond. So, but not anymore.
So Tamsen,
yes,
I'm going to give you a gift today.
Okay.
And it's a gift of health, and it's probably something nobody's ever given you in your entire life. So it is a stool test.
Oh, wow. Okay. That could be my new love language.
It could be your new love language. And, it really is, it's the gift of health, because we know that most of your gut microbiome and your immune system and how your hormones metabolize are at the level of your gut.
I love that. So I really love that.
I knew you would love. See, our love language.
My husband's gifts are never going to compare again.
Forget diamonds are a girl's best friend. A stool kit is a girl's best friend.
This is a way to go.
And it's 3 days. So you basically, it comes in a nice kit with little boats.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm your girl. I really am.
Yeah.
I really am.
And after you do the test, I'm going to have a consultation with you and go over what exactly is going on in your gut, because once you improve your gut health, you improve your hormone health.
See, you're changing lives.
That's why I'm writing this second book, because I
can't wait.
So the whole hormone journey was so difficult for me.
Well, anything I can do to help you, I will.
Oh, you're so kind. I love this womanhood and the sisterhood. We have to, I think that's the key here from your book and your documentary. I think in my book is just trying to bring and build communities of women that we can bridge the science behind what's happening to us and how we can live an optimal, long, healthy life.
I could not agree more.
So Tamsen, where can people find you?
Yeah, I am on Instagram or social anywhere at Tamsen Fadal, and How to Menopause is the website right now for the book.
I'm so excited for the book. All of you guys, March 2025, How to Menopause. Go and get your book cover. Go and get your book now. And all you men, this is something you should buy your ladies.
Yeah.
For their birthdays, for their menopause calendar. Whoever's going through menopause, they should be getting this book.
And they should read it.
Yes.